Hello everyone, thank you for clicking on this video. Dim the lights, quiet the modern noise. We're about to take an inner journey to the past, an era of trial and quiet endurance. Let go of your current identity for a moment. We will borrow another existence, a life in the harsh Middle Ages, etched in silent traces, not in rulers' splendor. This age is full of contrast, where power feels absolute and hope is often just a small spark in the darkness. Close your eyes. Let the sounds around you fade. Tonight we leave the comforts of this age, stepping back into a time when shadows loomed darker and hope was often but a flickering candle's glow. You are no longer your usual self. Forget the name on your identification. Forget the warmth of your home and the laughter of your loved ones. For the next few moments, you are someone far inane that matters to the outside world, someone whose breath is dictated by another's will. You are a slave in the Middle Ages. Feel the chill of the packed earth or rough straw your bare feet as dawn has just broken, yet the sky is still reluctant to brighten. The biting morning air pierces your thin, tattered rags. There's no time for lazy stretching, no warmth to savor. The harsh bark of an overseer or the jarring clang of a bell is your unignorable call. It signals that another day of endless toil has begun. The place you call home might be a dark corner in a damp storehouse, reeking of mould and animal droppings. Or perhaps it's a cramped, airless barrack, where you're pressed tello against dozens of other souls in the same predicament, sharing body heat as the only source of warmth on freezing nights. Its walls are made of decaying wood or rough-hewn stone, often letting in the night wind and rain, soaking your meagre bedding of thin straw or worn-out sacks. Privacy is a word unknown in your lexicon. Every groan of pain, every stifled cough, every whispered prayer of despair is clearly heard by all. The stench of unwashed bodies, of untreated sickness, and of ain't food scraps, perhaps hidden in a corner, is the scent that accompanies your every breath. From before the sun shows its face until long after it has set, your hands never cease their motion. Perhaps you are bent over in the vast fields of your master, tilling the hard, rocky soil with a rudimentary tool, planting seeds whose harvest you will never fully enjoy, or reaping grain under a sun that burns your skin raw. Your back feels like it will break, your muscles scream in protest, yet you force yourself onward. To stop for even a moment could mean the painful lash of a whip from the overseer, whose eyes are always watching. Or maybe you are one of those whose labour is squeezed out within the great house of the Lord. You scrub cold stone floors, polish wooden furniture until it gleams, lift heavy cauldrons in a stiflingly hot kitchen, or run unearths, and there catering to every petty whim of the noble family. Every movement must be quick and flawless, for the smallest mistake can result in punishment. It could also be that you are part of a gang, building a magnificent castle or a towering church, structures that become symbols of power and faith, yet are built on the sweat, blood and lives of people like you. You haul heavy stones, mix mortar, climb rickety wooden scaffolding, with the ever-present risk of a fatal fall. Dust and stone chips become the daily fare for your lungs. Rest is but a brief interlude, just enough time to swallow a few mouthfuls of coarse food and a few gulps of water, often under the sharp gaze of a supervisor. There is no time to truly recover. Your body is a machine, constantly forced to work beyond its limits, day after day, without end. The food that enters your stomach is an additional reminder of your low worth. It is the leftovers, the crumbs from your master's table, or the meanest ration, just enough to keep you from starving. Perhaps a small bowl of thin, watery gruel, or a piece of black bread so hard it could break your teeth, often husk unahev on the edges, which you scrape off with your dirty fingernails. You swallow it not for pleasure, but from the primal instinct to survive another day. Hunger is your constant companion, gnawing at your belly even when you've just finished eating. You often see the glint of envy in a fellow slave's eyes when someone gets a slightly larger portion, or conversely, you feel the sting yourself when your share seems smaller than others. The water you drink is often cloudy and foul-smelling, drawn from a source of questionable cleanliness, yet thirst forces you to gulp it down. The presence of your master or mistress always brings an aura of tension. Their approaching footsteps, are enough to make you and the other slaves work faster, to bow your heads lower. Their gaze can be as cold as ice, full of judgment, or indifferent, as if you are nothing more than a meaningless shadow. Their voice is an absolute command that cannot be defied. A small mistake, slowness, or even a facial expression deemed inappropriate can trigger their anger, which often leads to physical punishment. The whip, made of thick leather, is an instrument of discipline, always ready in the hand of the overseer, or even the master himself. Its hiss through the air and the burning sting it leaves on your skin are cruel reminders of your place in this world's order. You learn to read their moods from afar, to try and become invisible when they are wrathful, and to move as efficiently as possible to avoid unwanted attention. Your body is a map of all this suffering. Your hands are rough and calloused, full of cuts and scrapes that never truly heal. Your back is beginning to stoop, though your years may not be many. Your joints often ache and feel stiff. Sickness is an easy visitor. Fevers, a persistent cough, skin infections due to the squalid living conditions, poor nutrition, and constant exhaustion. There is no physician who will tend to you with care. You can only rely on a crude poultice from an older slave, or resign yourself to fate, hoping your body is strong enough to fight off the illness on its own. Many of your comrades are not so lucky. Their bodies succumb to disease or injury, and then they simply disappear, replaced by new faces, who will also enter the same cycle of suffering. Yet, amidst all this darkness and despair, there is something within you that refuses to be entirely extinguished. Perhaps it's the way your eyes still keenly observe the small details around you. A wild flower defiantly blooming in a crack in a stone wall, the distant faint song of a bird in the early morning, or the formation of clouds in the vast sky when you steal a momentary glance from your work. These are small things that no one can take away from you. Maybe at night, when everyone is asleep in their exhaustion, you let your mind wander. You vaguely remember your mother's face, the warmth of her embrace, or a lullaby she once sang. These memories are painful, yet they are also a reminder that there was a time when you were someone loved, someone with a name and hopes. Or perhaps you cling to a shred of faith, whispering a silent prayer to a God who feels so distant, asking for strength to get through tomorrow, or simply for a small miracle. Sometimes you exchange a glance with a fellow slave, a brief look filled with an unspoken understanding, a silent solidarity in shared suffering. Perhaps there's a small gesture, a hidden act of help when the overseer isn't looking, a piece of bread shared secretly. It is moments like these that become an anchor for your remaining humanity. Freedom, the word might only sound like a legend, a dream too luxurious to dare imagine. Your hopes are perhaps more modest, that today there will be no whipping, that tonight's food ration will be slightly larger, that tonight will not be too cold. Yet, in the deepest corner of your heart, there might still be a tiny spark that whispers that someday, somehow, this suffering will end. That spark is so faint, often nearly extinguished by the storms of despair, but it refuses to die completely. And you endure, not with heroic history-making rebellion, not by taking up arms. You endure with every painful breath you take, with every morning you force your body to rise, with every task you complete, even as your soul screams. You endure in silence, a mute witness to a cruel age. Your strength lies in your ability to still feel, to remain human amidst a systematic attempt to strip all of that away from you. Your soul, though wounded and trodden upon, continues to seek a sliver of air to breathe, to remember, to hope, however small that hope may be. And in that silent resilience lies a story no less significant than the epics of kings and knights. Night is an ambiguous time for you. On one hand, it brings a respite from the unending physical labor. There are no more commands to immediately obey, no more watchful eyes of the overseer. Yet, night also brings its own kind of torment. The cold deepens, the darkness amplifies your sense of isolation, and the silence, paradoxically, makes the noises inside your head louder. You lie, or rather, curl up, on your wretched bedding. Your body is an aching ruin. Every joint, every muscle, sends out constant signals of pain. You try to find a position that is a little less agonizing, but it is a futile effort. The straw beneath you pokes and prods, and the earthen floor beneath it leeches away your body heat with alarming speed. You pull your tattered rags tighter around yourself, trying to ward off the creeping chill. The sounds around you are a symphony of misery. Someone coughs incessantly, a ragged, heavy sound that speaks of unhealthy lungs. Someone else groans softly in their sleep, perhaps haunted by nightmares of the whip or starvation. And some are simply silent, their breathing heavy and laboured, as if each inhalation is a struggle. You listen to it all, and you know you are part of this orchestra of sorrow. Your thoughts often become your greatest enemy at night. Without the distraction of work, your mind is free to wander to painful places. You remember lost faces, the warmth of a home you once knew, or even just the simple sensation of a full stomach, a feeling you haven't experienced in so long. These memories, instead of offering comfort, often deepen the wounds in your heart. The contrast between then and now is a torture in itself. Sometimes you try not to think at all. You focus on your breath, on the sensation of cold at your fingertips, on the sound of a rat perhaps scurrying in a dark corner. You try to merge with the darkness, hoping to disappear for a while from this bitter reality. But your rumbling stomach is often an unignorable reminder, pulling you back to the awareness of your physical suffering. There are also nights when you feel so desperate that tears flow silently, wetting your gaunt cheeks and your filthy bedding. It's not a wailing cry, but the quiet weeping of a tired soul, a soul yearning for a relief that never comes. No one will comfort you. No one will wipe your tears. Everyone is drowning in their own suffering. Yet, amidst all this, there are sometimes small, unexpected moments. Perhaps you see a sliver of moonlight, managing to sneak in through a crack in the roof, painting a strange pattern on the wall or on the sleeping form of a fellow unfortunate. That momentary beauty, so starkly contrasting with the surrounding gloom, can feel like a very faint whisper of hope. Or maybe you hear someone humming a sad tune in a very low voice, a melody that somehow feels familiar and warms a tiny corner of your frozen heart. It's a reminder that even in the most horrific conditions, humanity can still find a way to express itself. Occasionally, you exchange a few words with the slave lying near you, soft whispers in the dark, perhaps just a complaint about the day's work or an inquiry about the condition of someone who is sick. That brief interaction, though it changes little, can provide a small sense of camaraderie, a reminder that you are not entirely alone in this hell. You share the same fate, and in that unspoken understanding, there is sometimes strength. Time passes with agonizing slowness at night. Each hour feels like an eternity. You wait for dawn with a mixture of dread and relief. Dread because dawn means the start of another cycle of endless labor. Relief because at least the darkness and cold of the night will soon recede, and maybe, just maybe, tomorrow will bring something slightly better, or at least no worse than today. Then finally, the signs of morning begin to appear. The inky blackness slowly fades to grey. The distant crow of a rooster is heard, faint at first, then clearer. This is the signal for you to once again gather the remnants of your strength, to prepare your body and mind to face a new day that will undoubtedly be just as hard, if not harder. That sleep, which never truly restored you, must end. And so, another day begins. As the first grey light of dawn filters into your squalid shelter, a collective stirring begins. Groans of pain, a chorus of coughs, the rustle of straw as bodies reluctantly move. There's no gentle awakening here. You push yourself up, every muscle protesting, your joints stiff and sore. The cold air bites at your exposed skin, a harsh reminder of the day ahead. You look around at the faces of your fellow slaves, a tapestry of exhaustion, resignation, and sometimes a flicker of that same stubborn will to survive that you feel within yourself. There's no morning ritual of comfort, no warm water to wash your face, no satisfying meal to break your fast. If you're lucky, there might be a piece of yesterday's hard bread, or a thin, lukewarm gruel hastily ladled out before the real work begins. You swallow it quickly, a purely functional act to quell the worst of the hunger pangs. Then it's out into the biting air, or the pre-dawn gloom, marshalled by the overseers. Their voices are already sharp. their demeanor impatient. You fall into line, a column of weary bodies trudging towards the fields, the construction site, the mines, or the great house. The tools are distributed, heavy, often poorly maintained, a familiar weight in your calloused hands. The sun, when it finally rises, brings little cheer. If it's summer, it quickly becomes a merciless tormentor, beating down on your exposed head and back, drenching your rags in sweat, and making the air thick and hard to breathe. If it's winter, its weak rays offer no real warmth against the biting wind and frost that numbs your fingers and toes. The earth itself can be your enemy, frozen solid and unyielding to your hoe in winter, or a dusty, cracked expanse in times of drought. You work in a rhythm born of endless repetition, the swing of the axe, the lift of the stone, the pull of the weed, the endless scrubbing. Your mind, to save itself, often drifts. Sometimes it's a dull, unthinking state, a mere automaton going through the motions. Other times, you observe. You notice the way the light changes through the day, the flight of a bird overhead, the intricate patterns of a spider's web in a neglected corner. These tiny observations are like anchors to a world beyond your suffering, small proofs that life, in its varied forms, continues. The overseer's presence is a constant pressure. His eyes scan for any sign of slacking, any hint of defiance. A moment terlalu long spent straightening your aching back, a whispered word to a fellow worker, a tool dropped. Any of these can invite a sharp rebuke, a demeaning insult, or the swift, stinging pain of the lash. You learn to work with your head down, to make yourself as inconspicuous as possible, to anticipate the needs of those in charge before they even voice them. Lunch, if it can be called that, is another brief, grim affair, eaten hastily in the field or worksite, under the same watchful eyes, the same meagre fare. There's little conversation. Energy is too precious to waste on words. The primary focus is on getting enough sustenance into your body to make it through the rest of the day. Accidents are common. A slip of a tool, a heavy object dropped, a fall from a height. Injuries are often left untreated or poorly tended, festering and leading to further complications. You see your fellows suffer, and you know that your own turn could come at any moment. There is a camaraderie of shared risk, but also a stark understanding that each must bear their own pain. As the day wears on, exhaustion gnaws at you relentlessly. Your movements become slower, heavier. The initial aches of the morning have now settled into a deep, throbbing pain that encompasses your entire body. Yet, you must push on. The quota must be met, the task completed. Failure is not an option. Sometimes, small acts of kindness occur, almost invisibly. A stronger slave might subtly take on a bit more of a heavy load to ease the burden on a weaker one. A morsel of food might be slipped to someone who is clearly ailing. These are dangerous acts, punishable if discovered, but they are lifelines, small assertions of shared humanity in a dehumanizing world. The sun begins its descent, painting the sky in hues you barely have the energy to notice. This is the time when your fatigue is at its peak, when every remaining moment of work feels like an eternity. You count the minutes, the shadows lengthening, praying for the signal that will end the day's labor. And then finally, it comes. The call to down tools. A wave of bone-deep weariness washes over you, so profound it's almost a physical blow. You trudge back to your home, a silent, shuffling procession of spent bodies. There is no elation, only a dull relief that another day is over, that you have, somehow, survived it. The return to your squalid shelter offers little comfort, but it is a return to a space where, for a few precious hours, you are not under the direct, unblinking gaze of your tormentors. The air in the barracks, or the corner of the barn, is thick with the smell of unwashed bodies, stale sweat, and the faint, ever-present odour of despair. You collapse onto your meagre bedding, the hard earth or thin straw doing little to cushion your aching bones. The evening meal, if one is provided beyond what you might have had at midday, is another Spartan affair. Perhaps a little more of the same thin gruel, or a piece of bread even harder than the morning's offering. You eat it slowly, not out of enjoyment, but to make it last, to trick your stomach into feeling a fleeting sense of fullness. You watch others around you do the same, a silent ritual of sustenance in the dim, flickering light of a single tallow candle, or the dying embers of a distant fire, if you are lucky enough to have even that. Conversation, when it happens, is usually hushed and brief. Whispers about the day's events, the cruelty of a particular overseer, the illness of a fellow slave, or perhaps a rumour desafios from the great house or the wider world, distorted and faint as it reaches your ears. There's a weariness in every voice, a shared understanding that tomorrow will bring more of the same. Sometimes, a story is told, an old folk tale, a fragmented memory of a life before bondage, or a whispered hope for a messiah, or an uprising that never seems to materialize. These stories are like fragile threads, connecting you to a sense of shared culture, a past, or a desperate, almost illusory future. As darkness fully descends, the sounds of the night take over, the creaking of the timbers, the rustling of unseen creatures in the thatch or walls, the distant howl of a wolf, or the closer, more unsettling sounds of human suffering. A racking cough from one corner, a whimper of pain from another, the troubled murmurs of someone lost in a nightmare. You lie there, listening, a part of this nocturnal chorus of misery. Sleep, when it comes, is rarely peaceful or restorative. It is often a shallow, fitful state, punctuated by aches, by the cold, by the sounds around you, and by dreams that are either a terrifying echo of your waking life, or a poignant, painful reminder of what you have lost. You might dream of endless fields under a scorching sun, the sting of the lash, or faces you can no longer quite recall. You might wake with a start, your heart pounding, unsure for a moment where you are, only for the grim reality of your surroundings to come crashing back. Yet, even in these depths, the human spirit, yours included, seeks small anchors. Perhaps you have a tiny smooth stone you found in the field, something you can hold in your palm, a small solid piece of the world that is, in a secret way, yours. Or maybe you focus on the rhythm of your own breathing, a steady, an internal metronome that proves you are still alive. You might find a strange solace in the shared presence of others, even in their suffering, a reminder that you are not utterly alone in this abyss. There are moments of stark realization too. You see the toll this life takes on everyone. The young grow old before their time, their faces etched with hardship. The strong are gradually worn down. Hope for many becomes a forgotten word. You witness death, sometimes sudden from an accident or a brutal punishment, sometimes slow from disease or starvation. Each loss is a stark reminder of your own precarity, your own expendability in the eyes of your masters. The dead are often disposed of with little ceremony, their absence a void that is quickly filled by another unfortunate soul, or simply marked by a brief somber silence among those left behind. But still, you get up when the call comes again. You force your protesting limbs to move. You swallow your meager ration. You pick up your tools. Why? Perhaps it is the most basic, primal instinct to survive, a refusal to simply lie down and die. Perhaps it is a flicker of defiance, a stubborn insistence on existing, despite a world that wishes to crush you. Perhaps it is the faintest, most irrational glimmer of hope that someday, somehow, things might change, or that your endurance itself holds some unspoken meaning. This is your life, a relentless cycle of toil, deprivation, and fear, punctuated by fleeting moments of shared humanity or quiet, internal resistance. It is a life lived on the very edge of human endurance. The seasons turn, each bringing its own particular brand of hardship. Summer scorches you in the fields, the sun an unrelenting tyrant. Dust chokes your lungs, sweat stings your eyes, and the threat of sunstroke looms for those who falter. The days are long, the labour stretching from the earliest light until a late, lingering dusk. The nights offer little relief from the oppressive heat in your crowded, airless shelter. Autumn arrives with a deceptive beauty. The changing colours of the leaves on the trees, beyond your master's lands, are a sight you might glimpse from afar, a world away from your reality. For you, autumn means the frenzy of harvest, working at a feverish pace to bring in the crops before the first frosts. Your already exhausted body is pushed to new limits. But it also brings a gnawing anxiety, for the harvest determines the master's wealth, and indirectly, how lean the coming winter will be for everyone, though your share will always be the barest minimum. Winter is a brutal adversary. The cold seeps into your bones, a relentless ache that no amount of huddling or thin rags can truly keep at bay. The ground freezes solid, making fieldwork impossible. But this rarely means rest for you. There are always other tasks: mending tools, chopping wood in the biting wind, tending to animals in frozen barns, or endless chores within the great house, where the contrast between its relative warmth and your own shivering misery is a constant, bitter reminder of your station. Food becomes even scarcer, your already meager rations perhaps reduced further. The nights are interminably long and dark, and the fight against the cold is a nightly battle for survival. Disease thrives in these conditions, preying on weakened bodies. You see more of your fellows succumb during these harsh months. Spring offers a fleeting illusion of hope. The world awakens around you with fresh life, new shoots, birdsong, a perceptible lengthening of the days. There's a brief respite from the harshest cold, and perhaps a slight improvement in the availability of wild greens or roots you might forage, if permitted, to supplement your diet. But spring also means the start of the ploughing and planting season, the beginning of another long cycle of back-breaking labour under the sun. The brief promise of renewal quickly gives way to the familiar grind. Through all these changing seasons, your awareness of the world beyond your immediate servitude is limited and distorted. News from outside, of wars, of new kings, of distant famines or plagues, trickles in through snippets of conversation, overheard from your masters, or from travelling merchants or soldiers who might pass through. But these events feel remote, almost fantastical, their impact on your daily life indirect, if felt at all. Your world is defined by the boundaries of your master's estate, by the rhythm of your tasks, and by the ever-present reality of your bondage. You learn to read the subtle signs of your environment with an acuity born of necessity. The shift in the wind that might signal rain, the behavior of animals that could indicate an approaching storm, the quality of the soil underfoot. You become attuned to the moods of your masters and overseers, learning to anticipate their demands or their displeasure from the slightest change in their tone of voice or the set of their jaw. These are survival skills, honed in the harsh school of servitude. There are no holidays for you, no true days of rest or celebration that mirror those enjoyed by free folk or even the serfs who, while bound to the land, possess a degree of autonomy you can only dream of. Feast days in the great house might mean more work for you, more scraps to be cleared, more demands to be met, while the sounds of their revelry are a distant, mocking echo. You see children born into slavery, their first cries mingling with the sounds of toil. You watch them grow, their innocence quickly eroded as they are inducted into the same life of hardship you endure. It is a heartbreaking cycle, a perpetuation of suffering that seems to have no end. If you have children of your own in this world, your heart aches with a unique and profound pain, torn between the love you feel and the horrifying reality of the life you know they will inherit. The instinct to protect them clashes with your utter powerlessness to change their fate. Yet, even in this bleak landscape, the human need for connection persists. You might form unspoken bonds with those you labour beside day after day. A shared glance of understanding, a silent offering of help when the overseer's back is turned, a whispered word of encouragement. These are the fragile currencies of your social world. These fleeting moments of solidarity, of recognizing the humanity in another's eyes, are what prevent your spirit from being entirely crushed. They are small acts of rebellion against the dehumanizing forces that seek to reduce you to a mere beast of burden. The passage of time is marked not by calendars or significant personal milestones, but by the relentless succession of days, by the slow erosion of your own strength, and by the changing faces around you as some slaves disappear, sold, dead, or perhaps, in the rarest of instances, having found a desperate path to an uncertain freedom, and new ones arrive to take their place. You watch your own body change, the youthful vigour gradually replaced by a chronic weariness, your skin weathered, your hands gnarled. You learn to find refuge in the small internal spaces that your masters cannot touch, Perhaps it is in the meticulous way you perform a task, finding a sliver of pride in doing it well, despite the circumstances, a quiet assertion of your skill and worth. Or maybe it is in a song you hum under your breath while working, a melody from a forgotten past, or one you create yourself, a secret tune that belongs only to you. Religion, if it reaches you, is often a double-edged sword. The priests who serve your master might preach of obedience and the rewards of suffering in the afterlife, a message that can feel like another chain binding you to your fate. Yet, in the quiet of your own heart, you might cling to a different interpretation, a belief in a just God who sees your suffering, a silent prayer for deliverance, or simply a plea for the strength to endure another day. Sometimes, scraps of older beliefs, of nature spirits, or forgotten deities, might offer a different kind of solace, a connection to a world less structured by human cruelty. There are moments when the sheer injustice of it all, the crushing weight of your existence, threatens to overwhelm you. A surge of anger, a profound despair, a desperate yearning for an escape you know is almost impossible. These feelings are dangerous. To express them openly would invite swift and brutal punishment. So, you learn to swallow them, to bury them deep inside, though they smoulder like embers, sometimes flaring up in your dreams, or in moments of unguarded solitude. You observe the lives of your masters with a detached curiosity, sometimes mixed with resentment or a bitter amusement. You see their excesses, their petty squabbles, their anxieties, and you realize that their power and wealth do not necessarily equate to happiness or inner peace. It's a small, cold comfort perhaps, but it's a crack in the facade of their absolute superiority. And then there are the rare, almost mythical stories that circulate in whispers among the slaves. Tales of successful escapes, of hidden communities of runaways, of lands where slavery does not exist. These stories are like sparks in the darkness, often embellished, perhaps mostly untrue, but they feed a tiny stubborn flame of hope, or at least provide a momentary imaginative escape from the relentless present. The risk of attempting such an escape is enormous. Capture means almost certain death, or a punishment so severe it makes death seem a mercy. Yet, the dream of freedom, however distant, is a powerful opiate. As the years wear on, you become a repository of unspoken history. You've seen masters come and go, new overseers with different cruelties, generations of fellow slaves pass through. You've learned the land, the work, the people, with an intimacy born of survival. You carry within you the unwritten chronicle of your people's suffering and resilience. There is no retirement from this life, no reward for long service. You work until your body finally gives out, until you are too old, too sick, or too broken to be of further use. What happens then varies. Perhaps you are left to waste away in a corner, a burden no one wants, or perhaps a quicker end comes. But for as long as you draw breath, you endure. Each sunrise you greet, each task you complete, each small internal act of preserving your own humanity is a victory. It is a testament to a strength that is not about power or dominance, but about the unyielding will to live, to remain a person in the face of a system designed to make you less than human. And so, your life unfolds, a testament to the unyielding resilience of the human spirit in the face of unimaginable hardship. Though no monuments will bear your name, and no grand histories will record your individual struggles, your existence is woven into the very fabric of the age. In every stone of the castles and cathedrals, in every furrow of the cultivated fields, lies the echo of your unacknowledged labor, your silent suffering, and your profound, quiet strength. You are a survivor, a keeper of an unspoken truth, a human being who, against all odds, continued to draw breath, to observe, to feel, and in your own way, to resist the erasure of your soul. The darkness of your world cannot entirely extinguish the faint but persistent light of your enduring humanity. Alright, let the noise of your present world recede. Tonight, we journey back not to legions and emperors in their marble halls, but to the sun-baked hills and fertile plains that fed an empire. Your hands will not hold a stylus or a sword, but the worn handle of a plough, the rough wool of a sheep. You will feel the pulse of the seasons, the ache of honest labor, and the quiet rhythm of a life tied to the land. You are a farmer, a herdsman, in the time of Rome. The darkness still clings to the valleys when you rise, though the first hint of grey is beginning to etch the eastern horizon. There is no clarion call to wake you, only the ingrained habit of a lifetime, and perhaps the stirring of the rooster in the nearby coop. The air in your small, sturdy farmhouse is cool and still, carrying the scent of wood smoke from last night's hearth, the dry aroma of herbs hanging from the rafters, and the faint, earthy smell of stored grain or olives. Your home is built of rough-hewn stone and timber, perhaps whitewashed against the sun, its roof tiled with terracotta that glows warmly in the afternoon light. It is not a villa of mosaics and courtyards, but a practical dwelling, shelter for your family, and a testament to the labour of generations. Your father's hands, or his father's before him, likely raised these same walls. A small altar to the Lares and Penates, your household gods, might sit in a niche, a daily reminder of the spirits that guard your home and hearth, to whom you offer a pinch of salted flour or a drop of wine. Your first steps outside are onto cool earth. The world around you is a tapestry of familiar sounds and smells. The soft lowing of your oxen in their byre, the impatient bleating of sheep or goats in their enclosure, the chirping of awakening birds, the scent of damp soil, of dew on wild herbs, and the musky aroma of your livestock. These are the perfumes of your morning. It is spring, let us say. The air, though cool, carries a promise of warmth, a vibrant energy that resonates in your own bones. The land, your land, is awakening. Perhaps you lease it from a wealthy landowner whose villa stands on a distant hill, or perhaps it has been in your family for as long as anyone can remember, a small patch of Roman soil that is your lifeblood. Your first duty is to the animals. They are your partners in this life, your wealth, and often your companions. You unbar the door to the bye or the rough fenced pasture. The warm, living smell of cattle or sheep envelops you. You check on them, a new lamb perhaps, nuzzling its mother, or an ox that seems a little off its feed. Your hands, calloused and strong, run over their flanks, a language of touch they understand. You lead them to fresh pasture or prepare them for the day's work, their soft noises a familiar and comforting chorus. A simple breakfast follows, a piece of coarse bread, perhaps some cheese made from your own goat's milk, a handful of olives washed down with water, or a little watered wine. Your family stirs around you. Your wife, her movements efficient as she readies the loom or prepares food for the day. Your children, some old enough to share in the farm's tasks, others still small, their laughter a bright thread in the fabric of your morning. Then to the fields. If it is planting season, the earth, softened by winter rains, awaits the plough. You guide your yoked oxen, their powerful muscles straining as they pull the yard, a simple wooden plough that scores a shallow furrow in the soil. The share bites into the dark, rich earth, turning it over, exposing it to the sun and air. It is a slow, rhythmic process, a conversation between you, your animals, and the land. Each step is measured, each turn of the plough, precise, honed by years of experience. You feel the texture of the soil through the plough's handle. You watch the birds circling overhead, hoping for worms upturned in your wake. This is not just labour. It is a ritual, ancient and essential, the first act in the great cycle of sowing and reaping that sustains your world. The sun climbs higher, warming your back. Sweat begins to bead on your brow. The sounds around you are of the earth. The creak of the yoke, the heavy breathing of the oxen, your own quiet exhortations to them, the distant call of a shepherd, the hum of insects. This is your dominion, your struggle, and your deep, abiding connection. The furrows stretch behind you, long, dark lines against the lighter soil, a testament to your morning's labour. When a section is ready, it is time for sowing. Perhaps you carry the seed in a leather bag slung across your shoulder, your hand dipping in rhythmically, casting the precious grain, wheat, barley, or perhaps spelt, in a wide, practiced arc. Each handful is a prayer, a hope cast upon the earth. You watch where the seeds fall, aiming for an even spread, knowing that the fate of your family's sustenance for the coming year rests in these tiny kernels and the bounty of the land. Your children, if old enough, might follow behind, perhaps with a light branch, to gently cover the seeds or to chase away hungry birds. The work is relentless, dictated by the sun and the season. As midday approaches, the sun beats down with Roman strength. You might seek a brief respite under the shade of a solitary olive tree or a fig tree at the edge of your field. Lunch is simple, eaten where you work: more bread, some hard cheese, perhaps a few radishes or onions pulled fresh from a small garden patch near your home, and always water mixed with a little Posca vinegar water to quench your thirst and restore your strength. You share this meal with your family members who work alongside you, a moment of quiet communion amidst the toil. In other seasons, the tasks change, but the labor remains. Summer brings the additional work of weeding under a blazing sun, ensuring your precious crops are not choked by interlopers. Then comes the harvest, a time of intense communal effort. The golden grain must be cut with sickles, a back-breaking task that goes on from dawn till dusk. The air fills with the rasp of metal against stalk, the scent of ripe wheat, and the camaraderie of shared labor, as neighbors might help neighbors, knowing that their turn will come. The sheaves are bound and carted to the threshing floor, a hard-packed circle of earth where oxen or mules will tread out the grain, or where you will beat it out with flails. Winnowing follows, tossing the threshed grain into the air, so the wind can carry away the chaff, leaving the precious kernels behind. This is a time of anxiety and hope. Will the yield be enough? If you are also a herdsman, your days are spent in the pastures, often more solitary. You lead your flock of sheep or goats across the hillsides, seeking fresh grazing. Your constant companions are your dogs, alert and indispensable for keeping the flock together and warding off predators like wolves or stray dogs. You know each animal, its temperament, its needs. You watch for signs of illness, assist with births, and shear the sheep for their valuable wool in the spring. The rhythm of this life is slower, more watchful, a constant dialogue with the animals and the landscape. You might pass the long hours carving a piece of wood, playing a simple tune on a reed pipe, or simply observing the clouds drift across the vast Roman sky. Your knowledge of the terrain is intimate, where the best grasses grow, where the hidden springs are, which paths are safe. The land also provides. You might have a small vineyard, the vines carefully tended, their grapes harvested in autumn to be crushed for wine, some for your own table, some perhaps to sell or trade at the local market. Olive groves, a staple of Roman agriculture, require pruning and a careful harvest, the olives pressed for their precious oil, used for cooking, lighting and anointing. A kitchen garden near your home provides vegetables and herbs, beans, lentils, cabbages, garlic, adding variety to your simple diet. As evening approaches, the pace of work slows. The animals are brought back to their enclosures, fed and secured for the night. Tools are cleaned and stored. You return to your farmhouse, weary but with a sense of accomplishment. The smell of the evening meal cooking, perhaps a pottage of vegetables and grains, or bread baking in the small clay oven, is a welcome comfort. Water might need to be fetched from a nearby spring or well, a task often shared by the women and older children. There's mending to be done, a worn tunic, a broken tool handle. The day's small events are recounted, plans for tomorrow discussed in quiet tones. The light from a flickering oil lamp casts long shadows on the walls as your family gathers. These moments, though simple, are the bedrock of your existence, the human connections that give meaning to the endless cycle of labor. The setting sun paints the sky in hues of orange and purple, a magnificent spectacle that you, weary from the day, might only glance at, yet its beauty sinks into your soul nonetheless. This is the time when the boundary between work and rest blurs. Inside your home, the oil lamp is lit, its small flame casting a warm, flickering glow. The sounds of the evening are softer now, the crackle of the hearth if the air is cool, the murmur of voices, perhaps the rhythmic clack of your wife's loom as she weaves cloth from the wool of your own sheep. Dinner is the focal point of the evening. Gathered around a simple wooden table, or perhaps on low stools, you share the meal your wife has prepared. It is likely a hearty pottage of lentils or beans, flavored with garlic and herbs from your garden, eaten with chunks of the dense, crusty bread that is a staple of your diet. Perhaps there's a little cheese, or some fruit in season. Meat is a rarity, usually reserved for special festivals or when an animal has to be culled. Wine, if you have it, is mixed with water, a common Roman practice. Grace is offered to Jupiter or Ceres, or perhaps to your own household. Lares, a quiet acknowledgement of the gods' provision, or a plea for their continued favour. Conversation is simple, revolving around the day's work, the state of the crops or animals, news from a neighbour, or the behaviour of the children. These are the small chronicles of your life. If you have older children, they might share what they learned or observed. Their youthful perspectives are contrast to your own seasoned experience. Sometimes, an elder from the family, a grandparent perhaps, might tell stories of times past, of great droughts or bountiful harvests, of old traditions and the deeds of ancestors, weaving a thread of continuity through the generations. As darkness deepens outside, a sense of enclosure and security settles within your home, however humble. The door is barred against the dangers of the night, wild animals, or perhaps in more troubled times or remote areas, bandits or desperate men. The sounds of your livestock nearby, their occasional rustles or soft calls, are a reassuring presence. Before sleep, there might be small tasks, sharpening a tool by lamplight, mending a sandal, or your wife checking on a simmering pot that will be part of tomorrow's sustenance. For the children, there might be a simple lesson, perhaps learning numbers by counting pebbles, or hearing a fable with a moral to guide them. Literacy is a skill largely for city dwellers or the wealthy, but you impart the wisdom of the land, the knowledge of the seasons, and the importance of hard work and respect for the gods through your words and actions. Your connection to the Roman world beyond your farm is perhaps most keenly felt through taxes. The tax collector, an official of the empire, is a figure whose arrival is anticipated with a degree of anxiety. Taxes might be paid in kind, a portion of your grain, a number of your animals, or jars of your oil or wine. Or, if you are near enough to a market and have surplus to sell, you might pay in coin. This is a tangible reminder that your labour not only feeds your family, but also contributes to the vast machinery of Rome, an empire whose emperor you will likely never see, whose grand pronouncements rarely filter down to your daily life, except through such obligations. Occasionally, Roman legionaries might pass by on a nearby road, their disciplined march and gleaming armour, a spectacle of power and order, or perhaps a reminder of distant wars and the long reach of the emperor. You watch them with a mixture of awe and caution. Their presence means security from raiders, but can also mean requisitions of food or fodder if they are stationed nearby. Local markets, if you live near a town or a major road, are a vital link to the wider world. There you might sell your surplus produce, a few chickens, some cheese, a measure of grain, and in return, purchase items you cannot produce yourself. Salt, essential for preserving food and for your animals, perhaps some pottery, metal tools, or a piece of finer cloth. The market is a bustling, noisy place, a riot of smells and sounds, where you hear different accents, exchange news and feel, for a brief time, part of a larger community. Religious festivals, dedicated to agricultural deities, like Ceres for the harvest, or local village celebrations, break the monotony of work. These are times for communal feasting, where meat might be more plentiful, for offerings to the gods, for games, music, and a sense of shared joy and piety. These rituals reinforce your connection to the gods, to your community, and to the ancient rhythms of agricultural life. They are a vital way to ensure the goodwill of the deities upon whom your livelihood depends. But mostly, your life is one of quiet, cyclical routine. The turning of the seasons, the needs of your animals, the demands of the land, these are your masters, as much as any distant emperor or local magistrate. Your joys are simple: a healthy new calf, a field of wheat ripening to gold under the sun, a sudden rain shower after a long drought, the laughter of your children, the quiet companionship of your wife at the end of a long day. Your sorrows are equally tied to this life, a failed crop, a sick animal, the ever-present fear of blight or bad weather. Sleep comes to you on a simple pallet, perhaps stuffed with straw or wool, the air in your shared sleeping space, thick with the breathing of your family. It's the sleep of the weary, deep and often dreamless, though sometimes images of the day's toil or anxieties about the future might intrude. You wake with the first light, the aches in your body a familiar greeting, ready to begin the cycle anew. There is a predictability to your existence, a grounding in the tangible realities of earth and beast that is both its hardship and its peculiar strength. Your understanding of the world is shaped by direct experience. You know the feel of different soils in your hands, the scent of rain on dry earth, the subtle signs an animal gives when it is unwell. You can predict the weather with a reasonable accuracy by observing the sky, the wind, the behavior of birds. This is a deep, intuitive knowledge, passed down through generations, far more valuable in your daily life than the philosophies debated in distant Roman forums. When illness strikes, your remedies are those of the earth and tradition. Herbs gathered from the hillsides, poultices made from plants known for their healing properties, rituals to appease any spirits that might have been offended. A local wise woman or an elder in the community might possess more specialized knowledge. Infant mortality is high and life is fragile. The loss of a child or a vital animal is a profound blow, mourned deeply, yet life and work must go on. You offer prayers to Salis, the goddess of health, or to any deity whose purview might offer aid. Disputes with neighbors, perhaps over wandering livestock or boundary lines, are usually settled within the community, sometimes with the intervention of a respected elder, or, if your farm is part of a larger villa estate, the landowner's steward. Roman law, while it underpins the order of the empire, is a distant concept for minor local disagreements, though its principles might inform the decisions of those who arbitrate. The landscape around you is more than just a place of work. It is a living entity, populated not just by humans and animals, but by spirits of the land, of springs, groves, and ancient stones. You approach these places with respect, perhaps leaving small offerings, understanding that your prosperity is tied to maintaining a harmonious relationship with these unseen forces as much as with the visible world. These beliefs are woven into the fabric of your daily life, a layer of understanding older than Rome itself. You might have a small shrine on your land, dedicated to a local god or a deity particularly important to your family's welfare, like Robigus, to ward off crop rust, or Pales, the protector of shepherds and their flocks. Here you make your personal offerings, your quiet prayers for good harvests, healthy animals, and the safety of your family. The concept of Rome itself, the city, the empire, is something vast and somewhat abstract. You know it is the source of order, of the roads that might facilitate your travel to market, of the legions that keep a semblance of peace, the Pax Romana, though its benefits might feel uneven in remote rural areas. You pay your taxes to it, you might even admire its power, but your loyalty is more immediate to your family, your land, your local community, and the gods who directly influence your daily existence. The grand pronouncements of emperors, the political intrigues of the Senate, these are like rumbles of distant thunder, rarely impacting the core rhythms of your life, unless they result in new taxes or conscription in times of major conflict. Yet, you are Roman, in your own way. You might speak a local dialect of Latin, you understand the currency, you are subject to its laws, even if you rarely encounter them directly. The olive oil you produce, the grain you grow, the wool from your sheep, these are cogs in the vast economic machine that fuels the empire. Your seemingly small, isolated life is in fact deeply intertwined with the fate of Rome. There's a stoicism to your outlook, a resilience forged by generations of facing the unpredictable whims of nature and the demands of a powerful state. You accept hardship as a part of life, but you also find joy in simple things, in the turning of the seasons, in the fruits of your labor, however meager they might sometimes be. Your hands are rough, your back is often sore, but there is a deep, quiet dignity in your connection to the earth, in your role as a nurturer of life, a small but vital part of the ancient world. As the years pass, You see your children grow. You teach them the ways of the land, just as your father taught you. Your sons learn to guide the plough, to tend the livestock, to mend fences and tools. Your daughters learn to manage the household, to spin wool and weave cloth, to cultivate the garden, to preserve food for the lean months. It is a bittersweet process, watching them take on these burdens, knowing the life of toil that likely awaits them, yet also feeling a sense of pride as they master the skills necessary for survival. You hope for good marriages for them, alliances with other farming families that might strengthen your community and secure their future. There are moments of simple community too. Perhaps a neighbor needs help raising a new barn, and the men of the area gather, working together, sharing food and drink afterwards. Or the women might gather to spin or weave, sharing news and companionship. These occasions, though perhaps infrequent, are important threads in the social fabric of your rural life, reinforcing bonds of mutual support. The fear of debt is a shadow that can loom large. A bad harvest, the loss of several animals to disease, or an unexpectedly heavy tax burden could force you to borrow from a wealthier landowner or a moneylender in the local town. Interest rates can be crippling, and the inability to repay a debt could, in the worst cases, lead to the loss of your land, or even debt bondage for yourself or your children, a fate perilously close to slavery. This anxiety drives you to work even harder, to be as frugal as possible, to always try and set aside a small reserve, however difficult that might be. You mark the passage of your own life, not just by the seasons, but by the cycles of your family. The birth of a grandchild is a moment of profound joy, a continuation of your lineage, another pair of hands that will one day work the land. The death of an elder is a time of sorrow and reflection, the loss of a repository of wisdom and experience. Funerary rites are important, conducted according to tradition, to ensure the peace of the departed spirit and the continued goodwill of the ancestral shades. The stories you tell, the songs you might sing, however simple, the local festivals you observe, these are your culture, your connection to a shared Roman and local identity. They speak of gods and heroes, of the rhythms of nature, of the trials and tribulations of ordinary folk like yourself. They offer entertainment, moral guidance, and a sense of belonging. Sometimes you might encounter travelers on the road, merchants with their laden mules, government official on his way to a distant post, or even a wandering philosopher or storyteller. These encounters are rare glimpses into the wider world, bringing news, strange tales, and different perspectives, however briefly, into your familiar surroundings. You listen with a mixture of curiosity and skepticism, your own life rooted so firmly in the tangible realities of your farm. The tools you use are simple and have changed little over generations. The wooden ard plough, the iron-tipped hoe, the sickle for reaping, the flail for threshing. Your reliance on animal power, the strength of your oxen, the utility of your donkeys or mules, is absolute. You care for these animals diligently, for they are essential to your livelihood. A lame ox or a sick donkey is a serious setback. As you age, the physical toll of a lifetime of labour becomes more pronounced. Your joints ache more persistently, your back is more permanently stooped. But with age also comes a certain wisdom, a deeper understanding of the land and its ways. You become an elder yourself, a repository of the knowledge and experience that you will in turn pass on to the next generation. Your advice might be sought by younger farmers in the community. There is a quiet respect afforded to those who have successfully navigated the challenges of this life for many years. You find a certain peace in the predictability of your world, even in its hardships. The sun will rise, the seasons will turn, the grain will God's willing grow. There is an honesty to this life, a directness in your relationship with the earth that is perhaps lost to those in the bustling, complex cities of the empire. Your legacy will not be carved in stone or written in scrolls, but in the continued fertility of the land you tended, in the healthy livestock you raised, and in the children and grandchildren who carry on the traditions of your ancestors. This, in its own way, is a form of immortality. The local temple, or perhaps just a small rustic shrine dedicated to a patron deity of agriculture or your specific area, plays a role in your spiritual life. You are not a priest, nor do you delve into complex theological debates, but you participate in the communal rites and make your personal offerings with sincerity. The public festivals, overseen by local priests or magistrates, are important occasions to demonstrate piety and seek the favor of the gods for the community as a whole. The proper observance of auguries and omens, perhaps interpreted by someone with local renown for such skills, might also influence decisions about when to plant or undertake other significant farming activities. You understand that your efforts alone are not enough. The goodwill of the divine is essential for prosperity. If your farm lies within the orbit of a large villa estate, your life might be subtly different. The dominus, the master of the villa, is a powerful figure. You might owe him labor on his own vast fields for a certain number of days a year, or a larger portion of your produce as rent. His steward is a more immediate presence than any imperial official, overseeing the estate's operations, collecting dues, and settling disputes. The villa itself, with its finer buildings, perhaps mosaics, and a different way of life, is a constant reminder of the social hierarchy. Yet, there might also be benefits, a degree of protection, access to a larger market through the villa's connections, or perhaps the use of the estate's more substantial mill or olive press, for a fee of course. The roads, those famous Roman arteries of commerce and military might be a distant presence, or one that directly impacts your life. If a major road passes near your land, it brings a steady stream of travelers, merchants, soldiers, officials, pilgrims. This can be a source of news, a market for your surplus goods, but also a potential source of disruption or unwelcome attention. You learn to be cautious, to observe, to interact when necessary, but to largely keep to your own affairs. The dust of the legions marching to some far-flung corner of the empire might settle on your fields, a tangible reminder of the power that shapes your world. Your understanding of Roman law is practical rather than scholarly. You know what is expected of you regarding taxes, property boundaries, and basic civic order. You know that serious crimes are dealt with harshly by Roman magistrates. For the most part, you strive to live within these unstated and stated rules, to avoid trouble and to maintain your pax deorum, peace with the gods, and by extension, peace with the authorities. There are times of greater anxiety for the empire that filter down even to your rural existence. News of civil unrest in Rome, of a new emperor seizing power, or of barbarian incursions on distant frontiers can create a sense of unease. Will new taxes be levied to fund wars? Will stability be maintained? These are questions you might discuss in hushed tones with your neighbors, though your ability to influence such grand events is non-existent. Your focus remains, as it must, on your land, your family, and your immediate community. The idea of citizenship, if you hold it as many rural inhabitants did, especially in later periods, might bring a certain pride, a sense of belonging to something vast and enduring. But its practical benefits in your daily life are perhaps less obvious than the daily demands of your farm. The right to appeal to Roman justice is a distant concept if you have no means or cause to travel to a major town where a magistrate presides. What sustains you, beyond food and shelter, is the deep, almost spiritual connection to the cycle of life, death, and renewal that you witness and participate in every day. You see it in the sprouting seed, the birth of a lamb, the falling leaves of autumn, and the quiet slumber of the earth in winter. This eternal rhythm, governed by forces far older and greater than any empire, provides a sense of perspective, a grounding in the fundamental realities of existence. Your hands, though calloused and worn, are a part of this ancient dance, coaxing life from the soil, nurturing your animals, and providing for your kin. In this, there is a profound, if often unspoken, satisfaction. The marketplace in the nearest town, or perhaps a periodic Nundine market day, if your settlement is smaller, is a vital hub. It is here that the sweat of your brow translates into other necessities or small comforts. You might carefully load your donkey or cart with surplus grain, a few jars of wine or olive oil, some cheeses, or a young piglet ready for sale. The journey itself can be an undertaking, perhaps requiring an early start and a long walk along dusty or muddy tracks. Arriving at the market is an assault on the senses. It's a cacophony of sounds, vendors shouting their wares, animals bleating or squawking, the chatter of bartering townsfolk and fellow farmers, perhaps the clang of a blacksmith's hammer from a nearby stall. The smells are a mixture of fresh produce, baked goods, livestock, spices from distant lands, if it's a larger market, and the general human throng. Here you are one among many, your identity temporarily shifting from isolated farmer to a participant in a wider economic web. You haggle over prices, your skills honed by experience, trying to get the best value for your hard-won goods. With the coins you earn, you purchase essentials, salt, a new iron blade for your hoe or plough, perhaps a sturdy pot, or a length of cloth finer than what your wife can produce at home. If it's been a particularly good season, you might indulge in a small treat, a honey cake for the children, or a piece of dried fish from a coastal trader. The market is also a place for news and gossip. You hear tales from travellers, pronouncements from local officials, and the everyday concerns of other farmers, worries about weather, pests, or the price of grain. It's a social occasion, as much as an economic one, a chance to reconnect with acquaintances from other villages, to feel the pulse of the wider community. Sometimes, more exotic figures appear, a fortune teller offering glimpses into the future for a small coin, a travelling physician or quack selling remedies, or even an entertainer with a monkey or a set of pipes, drawing a small crowd. These are novelties, a brief diversion from the often harsh realities of your life. Your interactions with the more Romanized elements of society are also more likely here. You might see officials in their togas, notice the architecture of public buildings, if the town is substantial enough, or even encounter a clerk painstakingly recording transactions or decrees on a wax tablet. These are reminders of the structured, ordered world that Rome, at its ideal, represents, a world that often feels very distant from your daily toil on the land. The journey home from market, your purse perhaps a little heavier with coin, or your cart laden with new supplies, brings a sense of satisfaction, but also the awareness that these resources must be carefully managed. Each purchase is weighed against future needs, each coin a representation of hours of labour under the sun. Back on your farm, the rhythm reasserts itself. The new tool is put to use, the supplies carefully stored. The stories and news from the market might be recounted around the evening meal, briefly widening your family's horizons before the familiar concerns of your own land and livestock take precedence once more. You learn to live with a constant awareness of potential disasters. A sudden hailstorm can flatten a field of ripening grain in minutes. A blight can sweep through your vines or olive trees. Disease can decimate your flock or herd. A fire, started by a stray spark or a lightning strike, can destroy your home or your stores of harvested crops. These are ever-present threats, and your only defenses are hard work, careful management, prayers to the gods, and a resilient spirit that refuses to be broken by misfortune. When disaster strikes, as it inevitably does at some point, the entire family and often the wider community must rally, helping each other to recover and rebuild, for survival depends on this mutual support. Your knowledge of the stars is practical. They are not just distant lights, but a celestial clock and calendar. You know the constellations that mark the changing seasons, guiding your planting and harvesting times. On clear nights, their silent, unchanging presence can be a source of wonder, a connection to something vast and eternal, far removed from the struggles of your earthly existence. This deep, ancestral understanding of the cosmos is another layer of your connection to the natural world. The relationship you have with your neighbours is a complex tapestry of cooperation and occasional friction. You rely on each other. Perhaps you share the use of a particularly strong pair of oxen for heavy ploughing, or you lend a hand during a difficult birth in your neighbour's flock. Women might gather to help with a large batch of cheese making, or to share childcare during busy periods. This network of mutual obligation is essential, especially in a world without formal safety nets. However, proximity can also breed minor disputes. A wandering animal that damages crops, a disagreement over the exact boundary line between your plots of land, or the diversion of water from a shared stream can lead to arguments. These are usually resolved locally, through discussion, mediation by an elder, or simply by a pragmatic compromise. Maintaining good relations is generally valued above winning every small point, as feuds can be detrimental to everyone in a small, interdependent community. You witness the power of nature in its rawest forms, not just the nurturing rain and sun, but also the destructive force of floods that can sweep away topsoil and inundate your fields, or prolonged droughts that wither your crops and dry up your wells. Earthquakes, though perhaps rare in your specific region, are a terrifying reminder of the Earth's untamed power, often interpreted as a sign of divine displeasure. You learn to respect these forces, to prepare as best you can, and to rebuild with stoic determination when they pass. The concept of pietas, a Roman virtue encompassing duty, religious observance, and respect for family, gods, and state, guides your actions, even if you don't use the philosophical term. You feel a deep sense of obligation to your family, to provide for them and protect them. You honor your ancestors and the household gods. You strive to be a good neighbor and a responsible tender of the land. This unwritten code, this sense of what is right and proper, is the moral compass of your life. If you have a son who grows to manhood, there might come a time when the legions call, especially if the empire is engaged in major campaigns. The departure of a son for military service is a source of both pride and profound anxiety. He might return a hardened veteran, perhaps with a small plot of land granted upon retirement, or he might never return at all, his fate unknown on some distant frontier. The needs of the empire in this way can reach directly into the heart of your family. As you grow older and your own strength begins to wane, you watch your children, or perhaps your grandchildren, take on more of the heavy labor. There is a sense of continuity in this, a reassurance that the farm will continue, that the knowledge you have accumulated will not be lost. Your role shifts from primary laborer to that of a guide, an elder whose experience is valued. You sit by the hearth in the evenings, perhaps, your hands gnarled, but your mind still sharp, recounting tales of your own youth, of past hardships and triumphs, passing on the unwritten history of your family and your land. You become more attuned to the smaller beauties of your world, the intricate pattern of frost on a winter morning, the sound of bees in your small patch of flowering herbs, the way the evening light catches the dust motes dancing in a shaft of sunlight through your doorway. Having faced so much hardship, these simple, transient moments of grace can feel particularly poignant. And so your life continues, day by day, season by season, a thread in the vast, enduring tapestry of Roman rural life. It is a life of unceasing toil, of anxieties and uncertainties, but also one of deep connection to the earth, to your family, to the cyclical rhythms of nature, and to the ancient gods who watch over your endeavors. It is a life of substance, lived close to the bone, where every success is hard won and every loss keenly felt. Your seasons have turned many times, and your life, like the fields you've tilled, has known periods of bounty and fallow. The sun has etched deep lines upon your face, and your hands, though perhaps no longer capable of the hardest labors, hold the wisdom of a lifetime spent in communion with the earth. You have seen your children grow, perhaps even their own children now run through the same yard where you once played. The distant thunder of Rome's legions and the pronouncements of its emperors have been the backdrop to your existence, but the truer, more constant rhythms have been those of the soil, the livestock, and the sky. As you sit in the fading light, the familiar sense of your farm around you, there is a profound, quiet sense of having lived a life of purpose, however humble. You have fed your family, honored your gods, and been a steward of your small piece of the Roman world. Your legacy is not in marble or bronze, but in the enduring land, the continuation of your family, and the timeless dignity of a life lived in honest toil. Let the echoes of other lives fade. Tonight, your consciousness journeys across the vast ocean of time, not to toil in fields or brave the open sea, but to inhabit a realm of verdant, steaming rainforests, of pyramids that pierce the jungle canopy, and of stone monuments carved with intricate, enigmatic glyphs. The air you breathe is warm and profoundly humid, alive with the ceaseless symphony of unseen creatures and the distant guttural roar of howler monkeys that reverberates through the trees. Forget the simple tools of common folk. Your hands will now bear the weight of polished jade and the iridescent shimmer of precious quetzal feathers. Your brow will be adorned with the complex, towering headdress that signifies divine authority and cosmic power. You are Kinnick Janab Pakal, the radiant sun-faced shield, divine lord of Lakama, the great city your people know as Palenque, and the very destiny of your civilization. Its harmony with the cosmos is inextricably bound to your own life, your every breath, your sacred being. Even before the first golden shafts of Kinnick Shahor, the glorious sun god, slice through the dense emerald canopy of the rainforest that both cradles and encroaches upon your city, you are awake. The air within your royal bedchambers, nestled deep within the sprawling labyrinthine palace complex, is cool and still, yet pregnant with the lingering sacred scent of copal incense from last night's vital rituals, and the subtle, sweet perfume of tropical blossoms drifting in from the cloistered inner courtyards. The sounds here are distinct, a world away from the common clamour, the almost silent, reverent padding of attendants' bare feet across meticulously polished stucco floors, the distant, sharp and exotic cry of a scarlet macaw, and the ever-present, vibrant, almost palpable hum of the jungle, a living entity that is at once the nurturing heart of your city and its eternally wild, untamable periphery. You are not merely a man, though born of woman. You are an Ajur, a holy lord, a divine axis, a vital conduit between the mortal realm of your people, the celestial sphere of the gods above, and the watery, perilous depths of Zabalba, the underworld that lies beneath. This profound, sacred understanding permeates your every thought, dictates your every action, from the very moment you rise from your jaguar pelt-adorned dais or your intricately carved wooden resting place. Servants, their movements honed by years of devout and practiced reverence, bring cool, clear water infused with fragrant herbs for your morning ablutions. They assist you as you don the sacred symbols of your divine office, a hip cloth of fine cotton, intricately woven with cosmic symbols representing the world tree, celestial bodies, and your noble lineage, heavy, cool jade necklaces that rest with significant weight against your skin, magnificent ear flares of jade or shell that whisper of your ancestral might and connection to the divine, and perhaps wristlets meticulously carved with glyphs that proclaim your royal titles, your divine favor, and the sacred power you wield. Each piece is far more than mere adornment or a symbol of wealth. It is a potent vessel of sacred energy, a living testament to your divine mandate and the unbroken sacred legacy of your ancestors. Before you turn your considerable attention to the governance of the city and the well-being of your people, you must first attend to the gods and your revered forebears. In a private shrine within the sanctum of your palace, or perhaps on a specially consecrated platform open to the dawning sky, you offer fresh copal resin, its sweet, pungent smoke curling upwards like a prayerful exhalation, carrying your petitions, your gratitude, and your affirmations to the deities who govern the essential cycles of rain, the life-giving maze, and the sacred, inexorable passage of time itself. You might perform a personal act of profound devotion, perhaps drawing a few precious drops of your own royal blood from your tongue, your earlobe, or the soft flesh of your hand, using a sharpened, gleaming obsidian lancet or a sacred stingray spine. This blood, your most potent offering, is caught on sacred bark paper, which is then burned, its essence ascending to nourish the gods, ensuring the continuation of cosmic order and reaffirming the sacred covenant that binds you, your dynasty, and your people to the divine powers. In these intensely personal and sacred moments, you feel the profound weight of your lineage, the spectral yet palpable presence of your remarkable mother, the great Lady Sackcook, who with wisdom and strength ensured your rightful ascension to the throne in your youth, and your noble father, Canmo Hicks. Their spirits, and those of the long unbroken line of Palenque rulers who came before you, watch with keen interest from the other world, their guidance a subtle whisper, their expectations a constant motivating force in your long and storied life. From a high vantage point within your magnificent palace, perhaps a gracefully colonnaded gallery offering sweeping panoramic views, or a dedicated tower observatory meticulously designed for tracking the intricate and meaningful movements of celestial bodies. You look out over Lakoma as it begins to stir and awaken to the new day. The city of Big Water, so named for the 9 vital streams and ingeniously constructed aqueducts that channel life-giving water through its heart, is a veritable jewel of civilization, artfully nestled amidst steep, verdant hills cloaked in impenetrable rainforest. White stucco pyramids and towering temple platforms, crowned with intricately carved and once brightly painted roof cones that seem to pierce the very sky, rise majestically above the undulating sea of green, their surfaces perhaps once gleaming in vibrant reds, blues, yellows, and greens under the tropical sun. The pale smoke from countless household hearths begins to rise, a soft, bluish haze, mingling with the morning mist that clings tenaciously to the rainforest canopy. You hear the distant, layered, and increasingly vibrant sounds of your city coming to life. The rhythmic, reassuring grind of maize on stone metates as women prepare the daily bread, the calls of vendors making their way towards the bustling central marketplace, the resonant thrum of sacred log drums, or the sonorous, far-carrying call of conch-shell trumpets from various temple platforms, perhaps signaling the commencement of a public ritual or calling the populace to their daily duties and obligations. This sprawling, sacred city is your domain, your profound and lifelong responsibility, its prosperity, its sanctity, its harmonious existence, and its very safety rest heavily and directly upon your royal shoulders. Even now, in these still early hours of the morning, the intricate and vital machinery of your kingdom is already in motion. Scribes, their minds sharp and their hands skilled, with their folded books of treated fig bark paper and their fine reed brushes dipped in black and red ink, are already preparing to record your sacred words, your royal decrees, and the significant deeds of your reign for posterity. Nobles of high lineage, who govern sectors of the city, or oversee vital agricultural lands in the surrounding fertile valleys, await your summons to report and receive your instructions. Priests, the learned keepers of the sacred calendar, and the skilled interpreters of divine omens and celestial events, prepare for the day's necessary rituals and offerings. And your military captains, the valiant Nakamob, adorned perhaps with symbols of their martial prowess and past victories, responsible for the city's vigilant defense and the strategic projection of its power and influence, will soon bring their crucial reports. Decisions of great and lasting import await you, pressing matters of statecraft and governance, judgments in complex disputes that require your ultimate wisdom, plans for new and ever more magnificent monumental constructions that will glorify the gods and further cement your enduring legacy for all time, reports on the success of the maize harvests that sustain your populace, and the ever-present delicate and often perilous intricacies of diplomacy with neighboring Maya polities, vital alliances to be carefully nurtured and maintained, challenging rivalries to be astutely managed and countered, and perhaps when all other avenues are exhausted and the gods decree it, military campaigns to be meticulously planned and decisively waged to secure essential resources, ensure the flow of tribute, or capture high-status individuals for sacred, world-renewing sacrifice. The immense weight of these multifaceted decisions, each carrying profound and far-reaching consequences for your people and the future trajectory of your illustrious reign, settles upon you with familiar gravity even before Kinikahol, your patron deity, has fully claimed his radiant dominion over the morning sky. The formal day of your reign commences, a meticulously orchestrated rhythm of duty, counsel, and sacred observance. Attendants, with practiced efficiency and deep reverence, bring your morning meal. This is not a lavish feast, but rather a repast designed for sustenance and ritual purity. Perhaps steamed tamales, rich with the sacred, life-giving maize, complemented by beans, squash, and a hint of chili, accompanied by a frothy, unsweetened cacao, chocolate drink, the bitter, invigorating beverage of rulers and nobles, sipped slowly from an exquisitely painted ceramic vessel. As you partake, you might confer with your most trusted advisors, your elder statesmen, perhaps members of your own lineage. Your Sajalog, subordinate lords who may govern provincial centers or hold key administrative posts, or the highest-ranking priests from the city's most important temples. The discussions are measured, focusing on the immediate agenda for the day. Perhaps the final preparations for an upcoming public festival dedicated to the maize god. The careful interpretation of a significant dream or omen that has troubled your royal sleep, or the strategic implications of new intelligence brought by traders or scouts from a distant rival city-state. With the sun climbing higher, you move with regal composure and deliberate pace through the labyrinthine corridors, sun-dappled open courtyards, and grandly proportioned chambers of your palace. This is not merely a residence, it is the vibrant heart of Lakama's political, religious, and artistic life. The walls around you are alive with color and meaning, vibrant murals, now perhaps faded by time, but still potent, depicting gods with their complex attributes and cosmic struggles, scenes of your deified ancestors performing sacred rites that ensure the world's renewal, pivotal moments from your own long and storied reign, your accession, your marriage, significant military victories, or mythological events that underpin the very fabric of Maya cosmology and your divine right to rule. The air is cooler within these thick-walled stone structures, the bright tropical light filtering artfully through strategically placed doorways, lattice work, and open colonnades, creating an atmosphere of sacred gravitas. You might pass by specialized workshops nestled within the palace grounds, where highly skilled artisans, their talents honed over generations and dedicated to your service and the glory of the gods, are diligently at their tasks. Sculptors, with deft hands and keen eyes, meticulously coax lifelike forms and intricate hieroglyphic texts from massive blocks of limestone, their chisels and mallets ringing with purpose. Painters, with an array of fine brushes and natural pigments ground from minerals and plants, carefully detail sacred codices, folded books of treated bark paper, or adorn ceramic vessels with scenes of courtly life, mythological beasts, and divine interactions. Featherworkers, with extraordinary patience and artistry, assemble breathtaking mosaics of iridescent macaw, quetzal, and cotinga plumage for ceremonial regalia, headdresses, capes, and standards that will shimmer and blaze with divine energy during public rituals. Their exceptional skill is dedicated not just to aesthetic beauty, but to the potent expression of divine power, the reinforcement of social hierarchy, and the legitimacy of your sacred reign. You recognize its profound importance in maintaining the sacred and political harmony of Lakama, and you may pause to inspect their progress, offering a word of approval or a subtle suggestion. In the great audience hall, its walls perhaps once draped with fine, brightly dyed cotton textiles, and its massive pillars, carved with the likenesses of powerful gods, protective ancestral figures, or symbols of your royal lineage, or within a more private, secluded council chamber reserved for matters of high state and sensitive deliberation, your nobles and officials await your presence. They greet you with carefully prescribed gestures of profound reverence, their heads bowed low, their eyes often respectfully averted in acknowledgement of your divine status and awesome power. One by one, as summoned by your chamberlain, they approach your throne. Perhaps a carved stone dais adorned with jaguar pelts and symbols of cosmic authority, to present their reports or lay their petitions before you. A governor from a fertile agricultural region, his face perhaps weathered by the sun of the outlying farmlands, might detail the state of the crucial maize crop, its success vital for the city's sustenance and your people's continued well-being. He may speak of rainfall, of pestilence, or of the need for more laborers during the harvest. A high priest, his face serene and imbued with ancient knowing, his attire marked with symbols of his sacred office, might interpret a recent celestial event, the heliacal rising of the planet Venus as morning or evening star, a solar or lunar eclipse that cast a shadow of awe and trepidation over the land, or the unexpected passage of a comet, explaining its divine portents and prescribed responses for your reign, your dynasty, and the kingdom as a whole. Your Nakom, the supreme war captain, adorned perhaps with jaguar skins, bone necklaces, and other symbols of his martial prowess and past victories, might report on the readiness and morale of Palenque's warriors, the state of the city's formidable defenses, or vital intelligence gathered by spies or patrols concerning the movements and intentions of a rival polity like Calakmul to the north, or the ever-troublesome Tanina to the east. Powers that have historically posed challenges to Palenque's sovereignty, and whose ambitions must always be vigilantly watched and countered. You listen with unwavering attention, your gaze steady, your expression often carefully controlled and impassive, for a divine ruler must not easily betray his innermost thoughts, doubts, or uncertainties to his subordinates. You ask sharp, probing questions, drawing upon your vast knowledge of statecraft, warfare, cosmology, lineage histories, and ritual lore, knowledge that is both deeply learned and hard-won through practical experience, especially considering the remarkable and almost unprecedented length of your reign, which commenced when you were but a boy of 12 years. Decisions are then made, some swiftly and decisively, based on established precedent or clear necessity, others, after careful measured deliberation and private consultation with your most trusted and experienced counselors, perhaps including your own sagacious queen or elder kinsman. Perhaps a new temple complex, one that will further enhance Palenque's sacred landscape and your own glory, needs to be designed and its construction initiated. Its orientation towards celestial events, its iconographic program, and its dedication to specific patron deities of your city, your lineage, or a particularly significant cosmic principle must be meticulously planned and overseen. Or perhaps a delicate and high-stakes diplomatic mission must be dispatched to the court of a neighbouring Ajor. This would involve selecting ambassadors known for their skill and loyalty, bearing carefully chosen and valuable gifts, perhaps intricately carved jade ornaments, bundles of rare and brilliant quetzal feathers, caches of precious cacao beans, or finely woven textiles, along with intricately worded messages, perhaps even recorded in glyphs on a codex, designed to secure a vital alliance, reaffirm a treaty of peace and friendship, or perhaps subtly assert Palenque's influence and prestige in the complex web of Maya intercity politics. Justice, too, is a cornerstone of your divinely sanctioned rule. Disputes between noble houses over land or privilege, significant crimes against the state or its people, or acts of sacrilege against the gods or sacred sites, require your ultimate judgment, delivered with wisdom, a deep understanding of both customary law and divine will, and an eye towards maintaining social harmony and cosmic balance. Throughout your day, sacred ritual, both public and private, punctuates the more mundane, though no less important, affairs of governance and administration. The Maya calendar, with its interlocking cycles of the 260-day Tilgun, the sacred almanac, and the 365-day Hab, the vague solar year, creating the 52-year period, known as the calendar round, and underpinned by the linear progression of the long count, is a complex, deeply sacred, and all-encompassing system. Your life as the divine fulcrum and chief ritualist of your kingdom is inextricably bound to its intricate rhythms and auguries. There are grand public ceremonies to ensure the fertility of the land and the abundance of the life-sustaining maize harvest, often involving offerings to Kak, the rain god, and the young maize god. There are elaborate rituals to honor and commune with the deified ancestors, whose power and guidance flow through you and protect your lineage. There are significant public events to mark the auspicious passage of Khatun's periods of 20 tons, or 360-day years, within the long count, celebrated with the erection of new stelae and monuments recording your achievements. And there are solemn, deeply personal rites to commemorate significant anniversaries and transitions in your own life and illustrious reign, your accession to the throne, your marriage to your queen, pivotal military victories, or the dedication of new temples. These rituals are far more than mere spectacles for the populace, or empty displays of piety. They are vital, world-sustaining, and world-renewing actions that maintain the delicate balance of the cosmos, that keep the unpredictable and often malevolent forces of chaos and the underworld at bay, and that nourish the gods who, in turn, provide sustenance, order, and prosperity for your people. You yourself might personally lead intricate ceremonial dances, your movements precise, ancient, steeped in symbolic meaning, and physically demanding, adorned in heavy, breathtakingly elaborate costumes of jade, shell, feathers, and jaguar pelts that transform you into a living conduit, or even a temporary embodiment of a powerful deity or a revered ancestral hero. The pervasive, sweet-smelling smoke of copal incense filling the plazas and temple precincts, the rhythmic, hypnotic, and often thunderous pulse of log drums, turtle shell rasps, and clay flutes, the high-pitched, almost otherworldly chanting of priests, reciting sacred incantations and invoking divine presences, the vibrant spectacle of offerings of carefully prepared food, intoxicating beverages, fragrant flowers, precious jade beads, and other valuable objects laid before divine effigies or cast into sacred fires. These are the rich, multi-sensory fabric of your profound and unceasing spiritual obligations, powerful performances of sacred power that bind your city together, reaffirm its cosmic centrality, and ensure its continued favor with the gods. You are profoundly aware of your legacy, a concern that has likely grown with each passing katun of your exceptionally long and impactful reign. The city of Lakama itself is, in many ways, becoming your most enduring monument. Your long reign has already witnessed, and indeed initiated, significant and ambitious building programs. The intricate expansion and beautification of the palace, with its multiple courtyards, galleries, and subterranean aqueducts. The construction of soaring temples like the Temple of the Cross, the Temple of the Foliated Cross, and the Temple of the Sun, each a masterpiece of Maya architecture, and a testament to your devotion to the patron gods of your city and dynasty. And most significantly, the Temple of the Inscriptions, the magnificent pyramid tomb that you know is being meticulously prepared to be your final resting place, a sacred mountain that will house your remains, and from which your spirit will journey to the other world. You know that these majestic structures, and the intricate hieroglyphic inscriptions that adorn their stelae panels and lintels, texts that detail your lineage, your divine right to rule, your ritual acts, your military triumphs, and your relationship with the gods and ancestors, will speak eloquently of you and your era to countless future generations, just as the weathered monuments of your predecessors, some perhaps already ancient in your time, speak to you of Palenque's deep and storied past. The meticulous recording of time, of royal lineage, of significant historical and mythological events, is not merely a matter of record keeping. It is a sacred duty, a way of weaving your own life and reign into the grand cosmic tapestry, ensuring that your contributions to the sacred order are understood and remembered. Your royal scribes, masters of the complex and beautiful Maya script, are constantly at work, maintaining the royal chronicles on perishable codices and overseeing the carving of enduring texts on stone, ensuring that your deeds, and those of your illustrious dynasty, are etched indelibly into the memory of Lakama. The affairs of your family are inextricably intertwined with the affairs of state, a matter of both personal affection and profound political significance. Your queen, perhaps the influential Lady Tzakbuajo, is not just your consort and the mother of your heirs, but a figure of considerable importance in her own right. She participates in crucial state ceremonies, her royal bloodline reinforcing your own, and she may wield significant influence within the court, particularly among the noble women. Your sons, Khan Balam II, Khan Joy Chitan II, and perhaps others, are the future of your dynasty. Their upbringing, their rigorous education in the complex arts of kingship, including warfare, diplomacy, calendrics, and ritual performance, their strategic marriages to princesses from allied or important noble houses, and their progressive initiation into the deeper mysteries of royal power and sacred responsibility. These are all matters of paramount concern to you. The continuity of your lineage, the smooth succession of power, is vital to the stability and future prosperity of Palenque. You watch them closely, guide their development with a father's care and a king's critical eye, and meticulously prepare them for the heavy, sacred burden of rule that one of them will one day inherit from you. The sun god Kinich Aha, your divine namesake and patron, makes his daily, inexorable journey across the vast expanse of the sky. As he begins his fiery descent towards the western horizon, towards his nightly, perilous passage through the dark and watery realm of Sibylbar, your royal duties continue, though perhaps at a slightly less formal pace. You might dedicate time to inspect a major construction site, conferring directly with your master architects, engineers and sculptors, ensuring that the work aligns perfectly with your grand vision, with sacred cosmic principles, and with the exacting standards of Maya artistry. Your approval is sought for every detail, from the orientation of a new building to the precise iconography of a carved panel. Alternatively, you might preside over the formal reception of tribute from a subordinate town or a recently pacified neighboring polity. This is a public display of Palenk's power and influence. Governors or emissaries arrive, bearing valuable goods, bundles of shimmering, iridescent quetzal feathers, essential for royal and divine regalia, intricately carved jade ornaments, caches of precious cacao beans, used both as currency and for the elite chocolate drink, finely woven and brightly dyed textiles, exotic animal pelts, or perhaps even valuable spondylus shells from the distant coasts. This wealth sustains your royal court, funds your ambitious building programs, allows for lavish offerings to the gods, and serves as a tangible measure of Palenk's regional dominance. There are also moments, however brief and infrequent, of private contemplation, perhaps in a secluded courtyard garden within the palace, filled with fragrant flowers and the soothing sound of running water from Palenk's famed aqueducts. Alone, or perhaps in the quiet company of your queen, or a most trusted lifelong advisor, you might reflect on the immense challenges and the notable triumphs of your long and eventful reign. The memory of past conflicts, the shadows of old rivalries, the constant pressure to provide for your people and ensure their well-being, the unwavering weight of divine expectation and ritual obligation. These are your constant, invisible companions, the undercurrents of your royal existence. You look out at the city you have so profoundly shaped, at the magnificent temples rising proudly against the backdrop of the lush, emerald-green mountains that cradle Lakhama, and you understand with a clarity born of decades on the throne that your life is not, and has never truly been, your own. It is, and always has been, dedicated to Lakhama, to its patron gods, to its enduring people, and to the sacred cyclical order of the cosmos. A profound and sacred trust that you have carried with diligence, wisdom, and unwavering devotion for many, many decades. As evening descends, bringing with it a softer light and cooler air, the pace within the palace may shift. The formal audiences and public ceremonies might give way to more intimate gatherings or continued work of a different nature. Perhaps you preside over a royal feast, a display of largesse and power, where nobles, high-ranking priests, and visiting dignitaries are entertained with music, dance, and lavish spreads of food, venison, peccary, turkey, elaborate maize dishes, and copious amounts of the prized cacao drink. These events are not merely for pleasure, they are political acts, reinforcing loyalty, forging alliances, and displaying the wealth and sophistication of your court. Alternatively, you might spend time in the royal library with your most learned scribes and astronomers. Here, amidst stacks of folded codices filled with intricate glyphs and vivid imagery, you discuss the movements of the stars and planets, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, whose cycles are meticulously tracked and interpreted for their influence on earthly affairs. The precise calculation of the calendar, the timing of sacred rituals, and even decisions regarding warfare or agricultural cycles can depend on these celestial observations. Your understanding of these cosmic rhythms is essential to your role as a divine king, a master of time itself. The artists of your court might present their latest creations for your approval. A newly carved stela detailing a recent victory, a finely painted ceramic vessel intended as a royal gift, or a section of a mural that will adorn a new temple wall. Your patronage of the arts is not a whim. It is a crucial aspect of kingship, a means of communicating power, piety, and the legitimacy of your dynasty to both your subjects and your rivals. The beauty and sophistication of Lakhama's art are a reflection of your own greatness. There are also the quieter, more personal aspects of your evening. Time spent with your immediate family, though still imbued with the formality of your station, allows for a different kind of interaction. You might observe your sons as they practice with weapons or engage in scholarly debate, assessing their progress and their readiness for future responsibilities. You might share a quiet moment with your queen, discussing matters of the household, the court, or the well-being of your children, concerns that even a divine king shares. The night brings its own rituals. Offerings are made to the nocturnal deities, to the jaguar god of the underworld, or to the moon goddess Ixchel. Guards patrol the perimeters of the palace and the city, their torches flickering in the darkness. The sounds of the rainforest intensify, the chirping of insects, the calls of night birds, the distant growl of a jaguar, a constant reminder of the wild, untamed world that surrounds your island of civilization. Before you retire, you might once again seek a high vantage point, looking out over your sleeping city. The stars blaze with an unparalleled intensity in the clear night sky, the constellations wheeling in their eternal dance. You feel your connection to them, to the ancestors who watch from the Milky Way, and to the gods whose power permeates the cosmos. You are a single vital thread in this immense and ancient tapestry. The weight of your responsibilities, even after a long day, never truly lifts, but there is also a profound sense of purpose, of being exactly where the gods and destiny have placed you. Your sleep, when it comes, might be filled with potent dreams, visions and messages from the other world, which your priests will help you interpret upon waking, for even in rest, a divine king is never truly off duty. The knowledge that your life's work is culminating in the magnificent structure of the Temple of the Inscriptions, your own funerary monument, is a constant undercurrent. It is not a morbid preoccupation, but a deeply Maya understanding of the cycle of life, death, and rebirth. Your tomb is designed to be a portal, a place from which your divine essence will journey, and from which you will continue to influence and protect Palenque as a deified ancestor. This grand project, undertaken over many years of your reign, is the ultimate expression of your power, your piety, and your enduring connection to your people. As the final watch of the night deepens, and the very air seems to hold its breath before the dawn, you prepare for your own rest. The last of the day's incense has burned low, its fragrant smoke having carried your final petitions and acknowledgements to the listening gods. The palace around you settles into a hushed quiet, though you know that even in sleep, the city is never truly still. Guards remain vigilant, priests may continue their nocturnal vigils, and the spirits of the other world are ever present. You reflect, perhaps, on the immense span of your life, ascending the throne as a child, guided by your capable mother, Lady Sack Cook. Navigating treacherous political waters, enduring the loss of loved ones, overseeing the flourishing of Lockham into a beacon of art and architecture, and ensuring the continuation of your sacred lineage. You have seen rivals rise and fall, alliances shift like the jungle mists, and the face of your city transform under your guiding hand. The weight of nearly 70 years of rule is a heavy one, yet it is a weight you have borne with dignity and an unwavering commitment to your divine charge. Your thoughts turn often to the Temple of the Inscriptions, the magnificent 9-stepped pyramid that houses your intricately carved sarcophagus, a conduit to Sebulba, and a monument that will declare your glory for millennia. You have overseen its construction with meticulous care, ensuring every glyph, every image, every astronomical alignment speaks to your journey, your divinity, and your eternal connection to the cosmos and the royal line of Palenque. It is a testament not to an ending, but to a transformation, a journey into ancestorhood from where you will continue to watch over and intercede for your people. As you finally lie down to rest, the sounds of the rainforest, the chthonic thrum of life, the distant call of a night creature, the rustle of leaves in a gentle breeze, are a lullaby that has accompanied your entire existence. You are Kinnick Janab Pakal, the great shield, and though your mortal form may grow weary, your spirit remains intertwined with the very stones of Lacama, with the sacred cycles of time, and with the enduring legacy of the Maya. Sleep comes, not as an escape, but as a brief passage through the mists, a preparation for the duties and the dawning light of yet another day in your extraordinary reign, and ultimately for your journey into legend. Alright, the scent of Maya copal fades, and the humid air of the rainforest gives way to something different. Tonight we trade stone pyramids for vast, untamed rivers, and the regalia of a divine king for the buckskin and calloused hands of an explorer. The year is 1804. The young United States, under President Thomas Jefferson, has just acquired a vast territory known as the Louisiana Purchase, and you are part of an audacious endeavor to chart its mysteries. Forget the known maps and familiar landscapes. Your world for the next 2 years, and perhaps longer, will be the relentless current of the Missouri River, the seemingly endless prairie, the formidable spine of the Rocky Mountains, and the vast, beckoning unknown that lies beyond, stretching all the way to the distant Pacific Ocean. You are a member of the Corps of Discovery, a hand-picked unit of soldiers and woodsmen, and under the steadfast command of Captain Meriwether Lewis and his chosen partner, Captain William Clark, you are about to embark on an epic journey into the heart of the North American continent. The air at Camp de Bois, on the Wood River in Illinois country, opposite the mouth of the Missouri, has been thick with anticipation and the hard work of preparation for months. Now, in May, the time has finally come. The heavy keelboat, 55 feet of straining timbers, sail, and oars, alongside 2 smaller pirogues, is laden with supplies, tools, weapons, scientific instruments, bales of gifts for the Indian nations you expect to encounter, and provisions for a journey of unknown duration into an unmapped land. A sense of gravity, mixed with a nervous excitement, permeates your small company, a diverse group of young men, mostly soldiers, but also skilled hunters, blacksmiths, and boatmen. As the expedition finally pushes off, leaving the last vestiges of American settlement behind, your life is immediately dominated by the Missouri, the Big Muddy, they call it, and it lives up to its name, a wide, powerful, and treacherous river, its current a constant, formidable adversary. Each day is a battle against its relentless flow. You might be at the oars, your muscles straining, your back aching, pulling in unison with your comrades. Or perhaps you are one of the men on the tow rope, scrambling along the collapsing riverbanks, hauling the heavy keelboat upstream, inch by hard-won inch. Sometimes, when the wind is favorable, the sail is hoisted, offering a brief respite, but more often than not, it is human power, poling, rowing, or towing, that propels you westward. The river is full of snags, submerged logs that can tear a hole in your hull, shifting sandbars that can ground your vessels, and collapsing banks that threaten to swamp your craft. Vigilance is constant. The landscape that unfolds before you is unlike anything you have known back east. The forests gradually give way to seemingly endless rolling prairies, vast oceans of tall grass that stretch to the horizon, rippling like water in the wind. The scale of it is immense, dwarfing your small party and instilling a sense of both awe and insignificance. You see your first bison, or buffalo as the captains call them, not as solitary creatures, but in vast, thundering herds that shake the earth and stretch for miles, their numbers almost beyond comprehension. Elk, deer, and antelope are plentiful. You encounter new birds with strange calls, and industrious prairie dogs that watch you with curious eyes from their sprawling towns. Captain Lewis, with his keen scientific mind, and Captain Clark, with his meticulous eye for detail, are constantly observing, collecting specimens, and making notes in their journals, fulfilling one of the key objectives of President Jefferson's charge. Your days fall into a rhythm of hard labor and constant alertness. You rise before dawn, often to a chill mist rising from the river. A simple breakfast of parched corn, jerky, or whatever game was procured the previous day, and then the work begins. The river journey is punctuated by the need to hunt for fresh meat, as your initial provisions are finite. You might be part of a hunting party, venturing away from the river into the prairie, your flintlock rifle, your constant companion, ever watchful for game and for any potential dangers. The bounty of the land is astonishing at times. Deer, elk, turkeys, and eventually the life-sustaining bison, but hunting is still arduous and sometimes dangerous work. Evenings bring the making of camp, a practiced and efficient operation. Boats are secured, fires are lit, sentries posted. The smell of roasting meat might mingle with the wood smoke and the damp scent of the riverbank. It is a time for mending clothes or equipment, for cleaning weapons, for writing in your own journal if you are one of the men encouraged to do so, or simply for quiet conversation with your messmates around the fire. There's a rough camaraderie among the corps, forged in shared hardship and a common purpose. You listen to the fiddler, perhaps Pierre Cruzate, his tunes a lively counterpoint to the chirping of crickets and the distant howl of a coyote, a small taste of civilization in the vast wilderness. Captains Lewis and Clark often spend their evenings conferring, poring over maps, making astronomical observations to determine your position, and diligently writing in their journals, documenting every aspect of the journey. You are a small, disciplined, mobile city of men, inching your way into the heart of the continent, under the vast starlit sky of a world that feels older and wilder than anything you could have imagined. As weeks turn into months, the Missouri River continues to be your guide and your tormentor. The landscape subtly changes. The prairies might become more arid, the trees along the riverbanks, cottonwood, willow, ash, more sparse or more concentrated in sheltered valleys. The river itself throws new challenges at you, narrower channels, with even swifter currents, unexpected rapids that require every ounce of your strength and skill to navigate, or long stretches where the banks are too steep or too soft for towing, forcing everyone into the water to push and pull the heavy boats. Blistering summer heat beats down, the sun reflecting mercilessly off the water, and violent prairie thunderstorms can erupt with little warning, drenching you to the bone, turning the riverbanks into treacherous mud, and threatening to scatter your precious supplies. Illness and injury are constant companions. Boils, dysentery, the bloody flux, fevers and infections are common ailments in your rough and exposed conditions. Captain Lewis, armed with his medical texts and a chest of basic medicines, and Captain Clark, with his practical frontier knowledge, do their best to tend to the sick and injured, but their resources are limited. A simple cut can become dangerously infected. A fall can result in a broken bone that incapacitates a man for weeks. Mosquitoes, gnats, and ticks are a relentless plague, their bites maddening and sometimes leading to fevers. You learn to endure discomfort and pain as a matter of fact, part of your existence. Discipline within the corps is strict, maintained by the captains through a system of military justice. Infractions, sleeping on guard duty, insubordination, theft, are dealt with swiftly, sometimes with floggings, a harsh but necessary measure, in their view to maintain order and ensure the safety and success of the expedition in such an isolated and potentially hostile environment. Yet, there is also a strong sense of fairness in their leadership, and a genuine concern for the well-being of their men, which fosters a deep loyalty. Your first encounters with the Native American tribes of the lower Missouri are cautious and carefully orchestrated. The captains, following President Jefferson's instructions, seek to establish peaceful relations, assert American sovereignty over the newly acquired territory, a concept entirely foreign to the indigenous inhabitants, and pave the way for future trade. You witness councils where Lewis and Clark deliver formal speeches, present gifts, peace medals bearing Jefferson's image, flags, tools, beads, and other trade goods, and attempt to explain the purpose of your long journey. Interpreters are crucial, and sometimes the chain of translation is long and imperfect, leading to potential misunderstandings. You observe these native peoples, the Oto, the Missouri, the Ponca, with a mixture of curiosity, apprehension, and often admiration for their adaptation to this challenging land. You see their villages, their earth lodges or skin tipis, their methods of hunting and agriculture. You learn slowly that the continent ahead is not an empty wilderness, but a land already inhabited by a multitude of diverse nations, each with its own complex culture, language, and territory. Some encounters are friendly, marked by feasting, dancing, and expressions of mutual curiosity. Others are more tense, shadowed by suspicion or the memory of past conflicts with other white traders or explorers. Your own behavior, and that of every man in the corps, is under scrutiny, as any misstep could jeopardize the entire mission. As you push further north and west, the days grow shorter, and the air takes on a distinct chill. The vibrant greens of summer fade to the golds and browns of autumn. The bison herds, though still immense, might begin their seasonal migrations. Waterfowl gather in great flocks on the river, their calls echoing in the crisp air. The need to establish winter quarters becomes pressing. You have travelled hundreds of miles, endured incredible hardships, and seen wonders that few Americans have ever imagined. But the greatest challenges, the high plains, the formidable Rocky Mountains, and the long journey to the Pacific, still lie ahead, shrouded in mystery and uncertainty. The vastness of the continent, and the true scale of your undertaking, is only now beginning to dawn on you with its full awe-inspiring weight. The decision is made to establish winter quarters near the Mandan and Hidatsa villages in what is now North Dakota. The year is 1804, and the first snows are already dusting the plains. Building Fort Mandan becomes your immediate priority. Axes ring out as you and your comrades fell cottonwood trees, shaping them into sturdy cabins and a formidable stockade. The work is hard and relentless, driven by the urgency of the approaching winter, which you know will be far harsher than anything you've experienced further south. The days are short, the nights bitterly cold, with temperatures plummeting to unimaginable lows. Life at Fort Mandan settles into a different, but no less demanding, routine. Hunting parties venture out regularly onto the frozen, windswept plains in search of bison, elk, and deer, their success crucial for your survival. Guard duty is a constant shivering vigil against the elements and any potential threats. You spend long hours mending equipment, crafting new moccasins from hides, or perhaps assisting the blacksmiths in their vital work. The captains are busy, Clark meticulously working on his maps, compiling the geographical knowledge gained so far, while Lewis focuses on his scientific observations, cataloguing plant and animal specimens, and learning about the local tribes. Your relationship with the Mandan and Hidatsa people is critical. They are generally friendly and provide vital assistance, trading corn and other foodstuffs for tools, beads, and other goods. You learn from their resilience and their deep understanding of how to survive in this extreme environment. It is here, among the Mandan, that the expedition gains two of its most invaluable members, Toussaint Charbonneau, a French-Canadian fur trader, and his young Shoshone wife, Sacagawea. Charbonneau is hired as an interpreter, but it is Sacagawea, still a teenager, and carrying her infant son, Jean-Baptiste, whom Clark affectionately nicknames Pomp or Pompey, who will prove to be indispensable. Her knowledge of the Shoshone language and a smattering of Hidatsa, her familiarity with edible and medicinal plants, and her very presence as a woman with a child, often signal the peaceful intentions of your party to other native tribes you will encounter. Winter at Fort Mandan is a test of endurance. The cold is a physical entity, seeping into your bones, making every outdoor task an ordeal. Frostbite is a constant danger. The diet, though often supplemented by successful hunts, can be monotonous, but there are also moments of camaraderie and even levity. You might gather around the smoky fires in your cabins, sharing stories, singing songs, or listening to Cruzat's fiddle. The men engage in foot races and other physical contests with the Mandan warriors, forging a rough respect. Christmas and New Year's are celebrated with what meager festive cheer you can muster, an extra ration of grog, perhaps, and a brief respite from the heaviest labours. As the long winter finally begins to loosen its icy grip, and the Missouri River shows signs of thawing, preparations for the next leg of your journey begin with renewed urgency. The keelboat, too large for the upper reaches of the river, is to be sent back down to St. Louis, with a small crew, carrying dispatches for President Jefferson, maps, and specimens of plants and animals collected so far. For the westward journey, you and the main party will now rely on the smaller pirogues and newly constructed dugout canoes. There is a sense of heading into even deeper unknown, as the maps, even the rudimentary ones, effectively end here. In the spring of 1805, you leave Fort Mandan, your numbers slightly reduced, but your resolve hardened by the winter. Sacagawea, with little Pomp on her back, is now a familiar and reassuring presence among you. The Missouri River, as you ascend further, becomes narrower, swifter, and even more challenging. The The landscape changes again, becoming more rugged, the plains giving way to the dramatic bluffs and strange rock formations of the Badlands. You encounter grizzly bears for the first time, creatures of immense size and ferocity, far more dangerous than the black bears of the east. These encounters are often terrifying, and even your experienced hunters find them formidable adversaries. The physical toil is immense. Portaging around impassable rapids or the great falls of the Missouri requires Herculean effort, as you manually carry tons of supplies and heavy dugout canoes over rough terrain, often for many miles, under a blazing sun, plagued by rattlesnakes and prickly pear cactus that pierce your worn moccasins. Your diet is often precarious. Sometimes game is plentiful, other times you face near starvation, reduced to eating roots or even rendered bear grease. Yet, amidst the hardship, there are moments of breathtaking beauty and profound wonder. The vast, open skies, the dramatic landscapes, the incredible abundance and variety of wildlife. It is a world few white men have ever seen. Captain Lewis, in particular, revels in the scientific discoveries, meticulously documenting new species of plants and animals, his journals filled with detailed observations. You too feel a sense of being part of something momentous, pushing back the boundaries of the known world, even as you struggle daily, simply to survive and move forward. The camaraderie of the Corps, the shared reliance on each other, deepens with every new challenge overcome. The leadership of Lewis and Clark, their different strengths complementing each other, is the unwavering bedrock of your Anabasis. As you push deeper into the summer of 1805, the search for the Shoshone people becomes paramount. Sacagawea's presence is now more vital than ever, for it is her people who are said to inhabit the lands near the headwaters of the Missouri, and it is from them that you desperately need to acquire horses to cross the formidable Rocky Mountains that loom ever larger in your imagination and increasingly on the horizon. The Missouri River forks, presenting a critical decision for Lewis and Clark, which branch leads to the Shoshone and the passage over the mountains. After careful scouting and much deliberation, they choose the southern branch, which Lewis names the Jefferson River in honor of the president. It is a gamble, and the fate of the expedition hangs in the balance. The going is incredibly tough. The river becomes a series of shallow braided streams, increasingly difficult to navigate, even with the lighter dugout canoes. Your moccasins are worn through, your clothes are in tatters, and your bodies are lean and hardened by months of unrelenting toil. Food is a constant concern. Game becomes scarcer in these higher, more rugged lands. You are often reduced to meager rations, and the gnawing ache of hunger is a familiar companion. The men grow weary, their spirits sometimes flagging, but the captains, with their unwavering determination and leadership, urge you onward. Sacagawea begins to recognize landmarks from her childhood, a sign that you are nearing her people, though she was taken from them many years ago. The relief is palpable when Lewis, scouting ahead with a small party, finally makes contact with a band of Shoshone. The initial encounter is tense. They are wary of these strangers, but Sacagawea's arrival soon after is a turning point. In an astonishing coincidence, the Shoshone chief, Kameawait, turns out to be her own brother, whom she has not seen since her capture years before. The emotional reunion is a powerful moment, and it solidifies the crucial alliance you need. Negotiating for horses is a delicate and protracted affair. The Shoshone themselves are poor. Their lives a constant struggle for subsistence in this harsh mountain environment. Horses are their most valuable possession, essential for hunting and mobility. Through Sacagawea's translations and the diplomatic skills of Lewis and Clark, who offer trade goods and assurances of future American friendship and trade, you eventually acquire the horses you so desperately need. You also gain vital information about the terrifying mountain ranges that still lie between you and your goal. The Shoshone describe a land of impassable snows, treacherous trails, and profound hunger. The crossing of the Rocky Mountains over the Bitterroot Range via the Lolo Trail in September 1805 is arguably the most harrowing ordeal of the entire expedition. The trail is brutal, steep, narrow, and choked with fallen timber. An early, unexpected snowstorm blankets the mountains, making the already difficult passage even more treacherous. Your horses, weak from lack of fodder, stumble and fall. Game is almost non-existent. You are reduced to eating your pack animals, then candles made from tallow, and finally, a few emergency rations of portable soup that do little to quell the raging hunger. Men become sick, weak, and despondent. Some suffer from frostbite. It is a desperate, starving time, and only the iron will of your leaders and the grim determination of the corps keep you moving forward, one agonizing step at a time. Just as your situation seems most dire, nearly broken by starvation and exhaustion, you emerge from the western slopes of the Bitter Roots and encounter the Nez Perce people. Unlike the Shoshone, the Nez Perce are a prosperous nation, with abundant food, particularly dried salmon and camas roots. They are wary but ultimately generous, providing your starving party with food and shelter. Their kindness and assistance are a lifeline. You spend several weeks among them, recuperating, building new dugout canoes for the descent to the Pacific, and gathering strength for the final leg of your westward journey. Captain Clark's medical skills are put to good use, treating many of the Nez Perce for various ailments, which further cements the friendly relations. With new canoes and renewed, if still fragile, strength, you embark on the Clearwater River, then the Snake, and finally, the Great Columbia River, the fabled River of the West, that you hope will lead you to the Pacific. The landscape is again transformed, a vast, arid plateau, the river carving deep canyons through volcanic rock. The rapids on the Columbia are formidable and dangerous, requiring all your skill as boatmen to navigate, or long, arduous portages around impassable sections like Sililo Falls, a major fishing and trading center for numerous tribes. You encounter many different native groups along the Columbia, each with their own customs and languages, a testament to the complex human tapestry of this land. Sacagawea continues to be a symbol of peace, her presence often easing tensions and facilitating friendly trade for essential food supplies like pounded salmon and dogs, which become a staple of your diet, much to the chagrin of some of the men. Finally, in November 1805, after more than a year and a half of relentless travel and unimaginable hardship, you begin to sense a change in the air. The river widens, the fog is heavy with the scent of salt, and you hear a distant, rhythmic roaring. Clark, in his journal, writes with understated emotion, "Ocean in view. Oh, the joy. You have reached the Pacific Ocean." The sight of that vast, turbulent expanse of water, the crashing waves, the sheer immensity of it, fills you with an almost overwhelming sense of relief, triumph, and profound awe. You have done it. You have crossed a continent. Reaching the Pacific Ocean in November 1805 is a moment of profound, almost disbelieving triumph. But it is not the end of your tribulations. The coastal winter is harsh, cold, relentlessly wet, and stormy. Game is surprisingly scarce in the dense coastal rainforests, and your diet often consists of lean elk, pounded fish, and whatever roots Sacagawea can find. You and your comrades vote on a location for your winter encampment, a significant moment where even York, Clark's enslaved man, and Sacagawea are allowed to cast a vote. You build Fort Clatsop, named for the local Clatsop tribe, near the mouth of the Columbia River, a cramped, smoky, and damp collection of log huts that will be your home for the next 4 miserable months. The winter at Fort Clatsop is a dreary and trying period. The constant rain, the monotonous diet, and the confinement lead to boredom, sickness, colds, influenza, venereal diseases, and frayed tempers. Your buckskin clothing is perpetually damp and rotting. Fleas are a torment. Yet, work continues. Salt must be made by boiling seawater, a tedious but essential task for preserving meat for the return journey. Hunting parties venture out daily, often with little success. Lewis and Clark diligently continue their scientific work, documenting the coastal flora and fauna and gathering information about the local tribes and the maritime fur trade. You long for the return journey, for the familiar landscapes of the Missouri, and ultimately for home. In late March 1806, with immense relief, you abandon Fort Clatsop and begin the arduous journey eastward. The return trip is, in some ways, even more challenging, as you are now racing against time, hoping to reach the navigable waters of the Missouri before the onset of another winter. The route is varied. Lewis and Clark decide to split the party for a time after crossing the Rockies to explore more territory, Lewis taking a more northerly route to explore the Marias River, and Clark a southern one along the Yellowstone. This period is fraught with new dangers, including Lewis's tense encounter with a party of Blackfeet warriors, the only truly hostile engagement of the entire expedition, which results in the deaths of 2 Blackfeet. Lewis himself is accidentally shot in the thigh by one of his own men during a hunt, an injury that incapacitates him for weeks. Despite these challenges, your party makes remarkable speed. Traveling downstream on the Missouri is far easier than the upstream struggle. You are aided by your now intimate knowledge of the river and the landscape. The reunion of Lewis's and Clark's parties on the Missouri is a joyful occasion. You revisit the Mandan villages, where you bid a poignant farewell to Sacagawea, Charbonneau, and Little Pomp. Sacagawea's quiet strength, her resourcefulness, and her unwavering presence have earned her the deep respect and affection of the entire corps. Clark, particularly fond of young Pomp, offers to raise and educate the boy, an offer her parents will eventually accept. The final leg of the journey down the Missouri is swift. As you approach the first American settlements, the sight of familiar log cabins, cultivated fields, and fellow countrymen fills you with an almost overwhelming emotion. You have been gone for over 2 years, presumed dead by many. Your arrival in St. Louis on September 23, 1806, is met with astonishment and celebration. You are gaunt, weathered, and clad in ragged skins, but you are heroes. You, as a member of the Corps of Discovery, have been part of one of the most significant explorations in American history. You have traveled over 8,000 miles through uncharted wilderness, mapped vast territories, documented hundreds of new plant and animal species, and encountered dozens of Native American tribes. You have endured unimaginable hardships, faced constant danger, and pushed the limits of human endurance. Your journey has opened the way for westward expansion, for better or worse, and has forever changed America's understanding of its own continent. Though your individual name may not be widely remembered by history, your contribution, your resilience, and your unwavering spirit are an integral part of this monumental American epic. You have seen a continent in its pristine majesty, and you have returned to tell the tale.